Welcome, welcome, welcome. In today's video, we will be talking about a very interesting topic for me, and that topic is rust. Key example, this little guy right here. This is an Opinel number 6. Very nice little knife. I love the size, love the ergonomics. But this is the first one that I got that is not inox. I got the carbon steel. I've had this for a little over 2 months now. And I intentionally do nothing to my blades because I want to see what sort of maintenance do they require, how good do they go, and what's the results. And so, a little over 2 months of regular EDC use of this knife, and you whip it out, and I don't know how well this will show up on camera, but it is rusty. It is getting covered in rust. Compare that to an inox blade that I've had for over a year now without doing anything to it other than just normal use, and it's just perfectly fine. Other than some like smudges on it, of course, there is no rust per se. I apologize for the camera not focusing, but no rust. And we'll talk about some various knives here, but I'm starting off with these two as the key components of the trade-offs that you get for carbon versus stainless steel or inox. And carbon steel, what's the benefit of carbon steel? Well, for one, the edge between these two would last longer between sharpenings. Once you get these to the same sharpness, this will stay sharp longer because it's a very tougher steel. And it's still sharp. Like, the sharpness is not really affected too much by the rust. And this is a little bit more than surface rust. This is starting to get a little deeper. It's not going to really buff out too easily. I think you could possibly get it out, but it would be tricky to get it out if you ever did try. The stainless steel, the edge does not go dull instantly. Don't get that in your head. This will last quite a while before sharpening. But you lose the edge retention, but you gain longevity of low maintenance. This is a very high maintenance knife. You're going to have to oil this little guy probably daily to keep rust off of this. This guy here, I've had this for over a year now. I bought this before last Christmas, and it's still going good. It's fantastic. And I've had to sharpen this a few times, but I'm okay with sharpening. I can get an edge back on my knives. And I don't see the need necessarily to get this type of carbon steel just to get a little bit more edge retention out of it, but have the hassle of rust. So let's bring in a few other knives here. This one I've had for well over a year. This is kind of 440 carbon steel, I think. Same stuff Leatherman uses, but treated a little bit differently perhaps. And I don't know how well that's showing up, but there is some slight surface rust. Very low maintenance. Any little bit of oiling that you would do to this knife once a month, whatever, would keep this in working condition. Wouldn't even have the surface rust by now. The QSP Penguin, well known for D2 steel, well, almost 2 years old now at this point. Very slight surface rust. Hardly anything on it whatsoever. Just a little bit here and there, but not even noticeable to even take away from the beauty of the knife. This thing is good steel. Even though it's not stainless, it's still a very good steel and stays looking good very long. This is an unknown Effengrow knife. Intentionally have done nothing to it. Surface rust that could be buffed off relatively easy. Not much on there, but there is some. And as for removing surface rust, a strip of leather on a piece of wood for support, either side, the smooth side or the slightly grittier side underneath, doesn't matter. Rubbing it on that can fix that. A piece of cardboard is very good at removing surface rust on some steels. Or, better yet, carpet. Carpet is surprisingly a good buffer. And if you just drag your knife along on the carpet, drag it, on the carpet like so, you tend to get rid of some of that rust. And I know, if it's a show knife, you don't want to do it. You paid $10,000 for a knife, you don't rub it on carpet. But for a beater $30 knife, a few strokes on the carpet to get rid of some rust is worth it. This little guy, I think, is D2 steel. Next to no rust on this whatsoever. Great little knife. If you have questions about these knives, comment down below. I'll try to answer your questions as best as possible. ALS 8 steel has very slight surface rust, and this is almost a 3-year-old knife by now, with next to no treatment whatsoever. I could probably buff most of that off right now. So, very good knife. ALS 8 is very good steel. Whatever steel this HCR 13 MOV, depending on how if it's like stone washed or matte finished or whatever, can last longer, because what's happening is how many pockets are in the face of the steel that moisture can get into. If it's pounded really smooth, you may not have as much rust because there's less pockets to get the water into to oxidize the steel. But about a year-old knife here, very little rust, and surface rust at that. Here's a fun little one. We have the Boker Atlas Multi. No rust whatsoever. This is a 12C27 steel, Swedish Sandvik steel. Lasts a long time, no rust whatsoever. Well over a year old on that. But the Sanrenmu version here of the Boker Atlas has very slight surface rust in about 4 months. Not bad, can rub off pretty quick. I apologize for this not showing up on camera, but I hope you can trust me a little bit here for what's happening to the blades. Now, one thing you can get on your knives is to get your blades coated. This is like either a Cerakote, oxidized, whatever. I'm not entirely sure of the whole process on each knife, but you could get your knife coated in something, and that can waylay the rust quite a bit. Some coatings don't work so well. Some coatings work superbly. This one works quite well. About an 8-month-old knife, I believe, by now, and barely anything on it whatsoever. The Cerakote that they do, or the anodizing, I think that's the word I'm looking for, can waylay rust quite well. A Leatherman 420 HC steel here, next to no surface rust on it at all because they treat it quite well. The way they grind it and polish it, it holds up very nicely. No rust whatsoever for all practical purposes. Cold steel, on the other hand, barely had this thing 2 weeks, and we're already getting surface rust that I'm not really able to rub off of this knife. So you should probably ought to keep that oiled daily, or at least every other day and what oil should you use? I like to coat mine in some 3-in-1, WD-40, that stuff works. But if you're trying to save a few pennies, baby oil, the mineral oil on that is very good to coat the blades. Cheap, does the job quite well. So, that being said, when you buy a knife, the steel that you get is some knives give you a choice of usually a carbon steel or a stainless option. I would recommend personally on stainless, because some of these do kind of go a little wonky on you pretty quick. But like the QSP Penguin, the D2 steel on that, over a year old, barely surface rust, you're good to go. No maintenance whatsoever. I intentionally do not maintain the rust factor of my knives because I want to see what happens to these as time goes. So, that being said, I would lean towards stainless if you're not big on maintaining your knives. You just want something that works and you're fine with doing a little extra sharpening now and then. That's fine. And the myth of like you're going to always be sharpening stainless and not always sharpening carbon is not quite true. I mean, there is definitely a difference between the two, but I don't think the difference is that great to lean towards going carbon over stainless. So I would say lean towards stainless if when you go to buy the knives and you have an option between something that seems to be more stainless or more carbon, I would lean stainless. But for QSP, Benchmade, SRM, they're all pretty good about their D2. I would trust that pretty well. 440HC carbon can kind of go a little weird on you, but not too bad. Whatever steel, cold steel used here, 3CR MOV, not a good steel for this knife. Not a good steel at all. Should have leaned a little bit more stainless on that. So, with that being said, thank you for watching this video. Hope you found it useful and informational. Hope it helps you build your EDC to your standards. And until the next time, farewell, carry well, and a bye-bye.